Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you, thank you.
Big time stuff there. We saw all the emotions at the end of this match. What was going through your mind?
So much, so much. I think at the end of the match, my legs just kind of buckled. They they weren't working anymore, and yeah, it was an overwhelming wave of emotions, I guess. Yeah.
Great tennis, but I want to ask you too about playing on that court.
Yeah.
What did you notice? What did you take away from center court?
It was a very different experience for me from last year.
The headlines say Alex Eala broke another crowd record against Iga Swiatek, but they barely tell the real story. Behind those packed stands was a remarkable sequence of events that few people saw coming. Why were so many fans desperate to witness this match? And what surprising moments turned an ordinary fixture into one people will remember for years?
Since the Miami tournament, Eala has one of the best, if not the best, second serve returns on the WTA Tour. And she can hit any type of return from both sides. So if you as a righty serve to the Eala backhand on the deuce side, she can go Jimmy Connors style down the line or cross court. She can do the same on the ad side. She can go inside out, and her favorite return on the backhand side is the inside in. And similarly on the forehand side, her favorite return is the one on the deuce side, where the player serves slice towards the tee or towards the middle.
The funny thing about history is that it rarely announces itself. Most of the time, it quietly walks onto the biggest stage in the world while everyone is still looking somewhere else. That is exactly what happened when Alex Eala stepped onto the grass at Wimbledon to face defending champion Iga Swiatek.
About me not handling the pressure well, and I was firing, shots. Today I wanted to be more calm and, play some balls in, but, I was mishitting, half of these returns, and I lost many points, I feel like. Maybe if I watch, I'm gonna see something else, but for me today was more about the tennis, and if I'm also happy how I came back.
On paper, this looked like another routine test for one of tennis's biggest stars. In reality, it became the match everyone suddenly had to watch. The seats filled faster than expected. The energy inside the stadium felt completely different, and Filipino flags seemed to appear from every corner of the stand.
I think I'd be making this many videos about women's tennis at Wimbledon, but once I researched Alex Eala's story, I couldn't resist this one. If you don't already know the name of Alex Eala, get ready, because she is the first Filipino tennis player to make it through to the third round of a Grand Slam's singles tournament at Wimbledon. But that isn't the best thing about her story. In August last year, Eala wore a t-shirt designed by Manila-based designer Georgina Camus, which featured the national flower of the Philippines, the sampaguita. And for her Wimbledon look, she chose to honor her heritage but also send a message of strength, with this Filipino phrase embroidered into the back.
Before the first serve had even been struck, something unusual was already happening. It was almost as if thousands of fans sensed they were about to witness the beginning of another unforgettable chapter in one of tennis's fastest rising stories.
Last year, before the match, I was really emotional because I was like, wow, the impact of this court, and I think before the match today, I think I was able to put myself in a mindset where it's still important. It's still a big match for me, but at the same time, it's like every other match, So I think I had a good balance. Yeah.
Talk more about the impact of the court. What does that mean to you?
I think it's just because this court has been the one that I've seen so many times, and you're at the baseline before serving, and you can imagine all the scenes of everybody winning their Wimbledon.
That is what makes sports so fascinating. Statistics tell one story, rankings tell another, but sometimes the atmosphere tells you everything you need to know. You could feel it long before the umpire called play. Every television camera kept cutting back to the crowd. Every conversation around the ground seemed to include the same name. Alex Eala was no longer simply an exciting young prospect. She had become one of the biggest attractions at Wimbledon, and the excitement surrounding her was impossible to ignore. What makes that even more remarkable is how quickly everything changed. Just a short time ago, Eala was known mainly by dedicated tennis followers who had watched her dominate the junior circuit and steadily climb the professional rankings. Today, casual sports fans across the globe recognize her name, and millions of Filipinos proudly wake up at impossible hours simply to watch her compete. That kind of transformation does not happen by accident. It happens when preparation finally meets opportunity, and when talent refuses to stay hidden any longer. Of course, none of this began at Wimbledon. Every overnight success usually takes years to build. Behind every headline sits thousands of hours of practice, countless defeats that nobody remembers, and sacrifices that never make television broadcasts. Long before packed stadiums cheered her name, Alex Eala was simply another young player chasing a dream that many considered almost impossible.
Over Swiatek again. She obviously beat her in Miami a couple of 12 months ago, and now she's beaten her as the defending champion in the first win on a center court at Wimbledon. She's in the fourth round of a Grand Slam for the first time. Let's see what happens. All right, so 2 hours and 14 minutes. So the first set was super long. Both of them have set points. It never really felt like Eala was in trouble. Even if she had lost that first set, Eala was in control. It was really, really interesting to see how Swiatek was just battling the entire time. You can see there that the serving was pretty consistent. Both of them were serving well-ish, but obviously the 5-double false for Swiatek really, really hurt her in the end. And actually,
growing up in the Philippines, she quickly established herself as one of the country's brightest tennis prospects. Her natural timing, remarkable court awareness, and calm temperament separated her from many players her age. Coaches immediately noticed that she possessed something difficult to teach. She never looked overwhelmed by big moments. Instead, pressure seemed to sharpen her concentration. As her career progressed, she continued making decisions that reflected both ambition and maturity. Every practice session becomes a lesson in excellence because everyone around you shares the same dream of reaching the highest level. Training there exposed Eala to world-class coaching, elite competition, and an environment built around discipline rather than shortcuts. Improvement was expected every single day. There was no room for excuses, only solutions. Those experiences quietly shaped the player the tennis world now sees on its biggest stages. One week, a player celebrates the biggest victory of their career. The next week, they are sitting on a plane wondering what went wrong after an early exit. Rankings rise and fall constantly. Confidence can disappear almost overnight if it is not built upon genuine belief.
Describe it. I mean, I'm into the second week of a slam, and it's amazing for me. Iga is a phenomenal player and a really nice person, so I'm really grateful to be able to share center court with her at Wimbledon nonetheless. I'm really emotional. And maybe for someone like Iga, who has won so many slams, or maybe someone like Serena or Venus, this achievement may seem small, but for someone who grew up in the Philippines and...
That is why so many talented juniors never become elite professionals. The physical demands increase dramatically. The mental pressure becomes relentless. Every opponent is capable of punishing even the smallest lapse in concentration. Alex Eala refused to let those challenges define her. Instead of becoming discouraged by setbacks, she treated every difficult match as another lesson. Every defeat revealed another area that needed improvement. Every victory reinforced the idea that her hard work was gradually closing the gap between potential and reality. Then came the breakthrough that truly changed how the tennis world viewed her. When she defeated Iga Swiatek in Miami, it was not merely another upset result that briefly dominated headlines before disappearing. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of that victory was how composed she remained throughout the match. Many young players produce flashes of brilliance before nerves eventually take over. Eala remained disciplined from beginning to end. Every point carried purpose, every adjustment reflected confidence, and every successful rally strengthened the belief that this was no fluke. Suddenly, analysts who had previously described her as an exciting prospect started discussing her as a genuine threat to elite opponents.
Before Roland Garros, what specific areas of Eala's clay court game do you see still needs the most improvement?
I think there's some improvement to be made, in particular with Alex's movement, specifically a little more development with the sliding technique, that being sliding into shots from corner to corner. In particular, when I watched Alex play, on a few occasions her movement out of the corners was a little stuttered due to slightly ineffective sliding, leaving her a little bit exposed when trying to retrieve her opponent's next shot.
That single victory did not instantly transform her into a Grand Slam champion. But it changed something equally important. It changed expectations. Once you defeat one of the biggest names in tennis, nobody underestimates you quite the same way again. That confidence cannot be purchased, borrowed, or manufactured. It has to be earned. Eala earned hers. As her performances became increasingly consistent, another unexpected phenomenon began unfolding around her. The crowds kept getting bigger. At first, it was easy to explain. Filipino fans naturally wanted to support one of their country's brightest sporting stars. Then, something changed. Neutral spectators also started showing up in larger numbers. People naturally gravitate toward compelling stories, and Eala's journey possessed every ingredient of one. She represented a nation still waiting for its first Grand Slam singles champion. She carried herself with humility despite growing attention. Most importantly, she played an entertaining brand of tennis that rewarded spectators willing to invest their time. There it is.
That's how Eala got through in this one, and it was really tough to watch Swiatek because she was hitting a lot of errors. She just wasn't playing like herself, but that's what Eala does. Eala frustrates players, and she makes them play worse than they're used to playing. She's just such a scrapper, and she gets everything back, and really is just such an awkward player to play, especially when she's confident, and we know Eala is confident on grass. She's played so well on this surface. She's not just beaten Swiatek, she's obviously beaten Svitolina and Rybakina, who are great grass court players. So really interested to see what happens next, because of course Svitolina and Rybakina are out of the tournament in that bottom half of the draw. Pellini comes up next. She's beaten Pellini before over in Dubai and Doha at the start of the year in February.
Her style differs from many modern power hitters because she combines aggression with intelligence. She does not simply attempt to overwhelm opponents through raw pace. Instead, she constantly searches for angles, changes direction earlier than expected, and takes the ball remarkably early, robbing opponents of valuable reaction time. Watching her construct points often feels like watching someone solve a puzzle several moves ahead. That quality becomes especially valuable against elite competitors because predictable tennis rarely defeats champions. Every great player eventually becomes accustomed to facing enormous power. What they dislike is uncertainty. Eala creates uncertainty. She keeps opponents guessing whether she will drive deep through the baseline, change direction cross-court, or suddenly move forward and finish the point at the net. There is something magical about the All England club that separates it from every other tournament on the calendar. Perhaps it is the